Hello and welcome to National Focus. I am Octavia Prosper. In the headlines, Dominica achieves yet another major milestone on its journey towards the construction of an international airport. Stakeholders happy so far with the 2022-2023 tourist season, and effective March 6, 2023, embarkation and disembarkation cards no longer required for holders of Dominican passports. The details of the headline story and more coming up. Welcome back. The arrival here on the weekend of the cargo vessel carrying heavy equipment for construction of the international airport signals the beginning of a new phase in the airport's construction. Julian Morris has more in this report.
It's finally happening. After much anticipation, the ship coming from China arrived on Dominica's shores on Friday the 3rd of March 2023, carrying a significant amount of heavy equipment, critical for the execution of the airport development plan. Following its arrival on Friday, the ship was able to dock on the Woodbridge Bay port on Saturday, 4th March 2023, to facilitate the offloading of the equipment, which will be initially stored at the old public works site near the Woodbridge Bay port. A representative of MMCE was present for the arrival of the equipment. MMCE are the developers of this airport project.
We have been working on the engineering part of the drawings, engineering design, schematic design, and detailed designs for all disciplines with our designers in the States, in conjunction with the rest of the team in different parts of the world. And at the same time, we've been working on site with regards to the soil tests, and that's a very sophisticated procedures.
Mr. Murad says MMCE has been conducting extensive testing necessary for such a project.
We got all the equipments required to do the soil testing and studying of the site levels, etc. And we have established, as you maybe all know, a special laboratory for all these tests and results. Just to make it simple, for every boreholes we have about 26 different tests of soil.
CEO of the airport development company told reporters the environmental impact assessment, or EIA, was concluded last year. What is ongoing now is what's called a geotech study,
where you need to ensure that the quality of the soil material for cutting and for filling is suitable, right? And if it's not suitable, what adjustments or what treatments can be done with it? As we all know, that part of the island there's a lot of clay, and that brings its own challenges. But we've been working with the lab to determine exact elasticity, moisture content, and all that, and then what sort of treatments will be done to ensure that there's slope stabilization. So that is still ongoing.
Mr. Johnson says they are halfway through the geotech study. Excavation is a major part of the project, and the MMCE has been anticipating the arrival of the equipment, which will accelerate its work.
For today, this is a good day that will expedite our work, will expedite the construction, it will expedite the excavation and the backfilling and all this. So we have today about 132 pieces of equipment, in addition to 44 containers full of building materials, in addition to 11 tons of steel rebars. That's what you see up there.
The magnitude of this project, over 500 acres, is captured in the size of the impressive fleet of heavy equipment which arrived on shore on Saturday.
We have about 49 dump trucks, 6 loaders, 6 bulldozers, 5 graders, 2 forklifts. We have roller compactors, 12 of them. We have the dynamic compaction. We have the excavators, about 16 excavators. We have the crush, we have the concrete patch plant, Two, we have the crane trucks, we have the mobile cranes, etc. And we're talking about from big size to medium to small size.
Regarding the arrival of the equipment, Mr. Murad says this is just the first batch and there is more to come. He anticipates that they will continue to receive containers as the project progresses. The MMC's operations manager was asked about the employment of local contractors on the airport project.
As for the airport, we definitely are planning to hire locals in all professions, starting from laborers, skillful technicians, engineers, inspectors, but we may require to request for certain certificates or certain training prior to that, but it's one of our goals is to focus on the local market, focus on the local human resources.
Mr. Murad gave credit to Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit for his policy of hiring local contractors on projects of this magnitude.
MMC has about 12 projects, 12 housing projects under construction now, and all been done with local contractors. MMC is dealing now with close to 65 local contractors, in which 16 and actually 20 of them are now working at Grand Bay, 10 of them are working at Scott's Head, 7 of them are working at Point Michelle housing project, 9 of them are working at Egliston, which is yet to start. 7 of them are working up there, you can see it, at Canefield housing project. 10 of them are working at VECAS housing project. 8 are working at Paybush housing project, and 4 are working at Penville housing project. 9 are working at Woodford housing project, and all these are local contractors, and their subcontractors are local subcontractors, and their suppliers and electricians and plumbers are locals, so you can do the math.
He says when it comes to the airport project, MMC will take every opportunity to use local resources. Acting Project Manager of China Railway, or CR5, Mr. Joseph, also believes the arrival of this first consignment of equipment will help expedite the airport construction project.
Actually, CR5 is a global company which is undertaking the project across the Asia, Africa, Caribbean area. The CR5 undertakes the airport, highways, railways, even the buildings, the plazas, and all the harbors. So it's a very fully organized company, and it's qualified for the construction of the airport.
CEO of the Airport Development Company says CR5 will not only bring technical skill and know-how, but they will also create an opportunity for knowledge transfer.
Because one of the things that the agreement with MMCE includes is, and Carl spoke about it at length, is ensuring that as many locals as possible are involved in the development of the project. And CR5, as Joseph indicated, has a vast amount of experience building airports, railways, major infrastructure works all over the world.
Mr. Johnson says he has full confidence that CR5 will be able to deliver. Mr. Benoit Bardwell is chairman of the Airport Development Committee. He says the arrival of the equipment brings us to a very important juncture in the life of the international airport.
It's here for all to see that the equipment is here, and this equipment is going to be stored temporarily at the public works area as well as on the port, and we are going to have them moved to Wesley within the short space of time.
Bardwell says the economic impact of the airport project will be significant.
In terms of the economic activity, this is going to spur economic activity for Dominica because in the construction sector, it is actually going to bolster the issue of employment. As you've heard a little while ago, several engineers, several local persons have been employed. Now you're going to have a lot more persons being employed, truckers. You're going to have a lot of activity within the airport construction site. And I dare say that that is going to help us from the economic standpoint. And we are going to, the airport brings not only during construction, but even after completion, the airport will continue to provide jobs of various classes to the Dominican population.
Julian Morris, GIS National Focus.
You're watching National Focus. More when we return. Welcome back. The passage of Hurricane Maria in 2017 all but decimated the country's agricultural sector. 5 years later, due to the investments and initiatives of the government, the ministry can report that the sector has returned to pre-Maria figures. Kuvia John has more in this report.
The agriculture sector has bounced back impressively after the destruction of Hurricane Maria. Approximately 100% of all crops were damaged by the strong winds and rain, leaving the country's agricultural sector bare. 5 years later, Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and the Blue and Green Economy, Honorable Roland Royer, has reported that the sector has surpassed its pre-Maria contribution to the national GDP.
Agriculture sector, the recovery, I can report it's completed, both on a national and macro level. If we look at contribution to GDP, it can justify that. In 2016, the contribution of GDP, agriculture contribution to GDP was about 245 million Eastern Caribbean dollars. After Maria, it dropped to 159. But in 2022, we had 266 million contribution to GDP. That's by agriculture. So that shows that, we are back even pre-Maria levels when it comes for contribution to GDP.
Dominica has also regained market shares in neighboring islands, which they lost in the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Maria.
We are self-sufficient in eggs, pork, and several vegetables across the island, self-sufficient. And of course, we have lost market shares due to Hurricane Maria, but we have since regained quite a bit because we have been producing and exporting traditional markets in the islands up north of Dominica in particular. So we have seen that rebound and the hucksters, traders have been benefiting from that. But of course, it came by investments by the government. It didn't happen overnight. It was strategic and we invested, so we now bearing the results.
Minister Royer says the ministry is working closely with Dexia to continue expanding the country's market shares in the neighboring islands.
We are working closely with Dexia, who is responsible for ensuring that we have consistent markets out there. So we have what we call the Agri-Trade Committee with the Ministry of Trade, and we meet very, very often so that we could link or create that nexus between agriculture and trade so that we could have that market intelligence from Bexia, and that information to be fed back to the farmers. So we know exactly what is required in the market, the quantities, the standards, and the type of produce required. So we can encourage farmers to invest in these areas so we can at least meet the demands that are out there.
The World Bank Emergency Agricultural Livelihoods Project was implemented right after Hurricane Maria to assist the impacted farmers. The first part of the project was aimed at giving farmers an incentive to not abandon their farms.
We took a multi-pronged approach when we, under the project, to invest to ensure that the sector is back on its feet. So the first intervention was reduction of vulnerabilities and risk. So in 2018 to 2020, government initially funded direct support, cash support to farmers at a value of $18.8 million to approximately 4,000 farmers and fishers. This allowed them to return to the farms and to pay essential services and supplies required for the survival, and of course to reduce the incidence of migration and abandonment of farms.
The second part of the World Bank project provided farmers with the materials required to start over. All of this helped with the overall recovery of the sector to ensure that it was able to rebound to pre-Maria status.
The second approach was resumption of production. That's where we provided seeds, seedlings, planting material, tools. That were distributed over among 1,000 farmers during that period. In livestock, we provided chicks for broiler farms, piglets, kids for small ruminants, etc., to ensure that the stocks were there so that the farmers could go back into production. And of course, we supported with inputs, with feeds, fertilizers, and other farm tools, small equipment to encourage production.
Kuvia John for the Government Information Service.
Effective March 6, holders of a Dominican passport will no longer be required to fill in embarkation and disembarkation cards.
This is the current forms, and it's the gremlins, we consider them, that Dominican citizens have to fill out, and sometimes require us to tell us what's our home address, and which country issued our passport, and our name, when the name is already on the passport, and our date of birth, which is already in the passport, and we receive a advanced passenger information system. It gives us all the information where we're coming from and which flight, and so this will be no longer required to be filled by Dominicans holding Dominican passports effective March 6.
Non-nationals will also be able to fill out a simpler immigration form.
And we will be introducing this new form for visitors to our country, which will be filled out. It has the immigration section and also the customs declaration. Now, those forms will also be available online, and they will be online no later than the 2nd of April, so that visitors to Dominica will be able to fill out those forms online.
Dominica has welcomed a new French ambassador as His Excellency Francis Etienne, Ambassador-designate of the French Republic to Dominica, presented his credentials to President of Dominica, His Excellency Charles Sovereign, last Friday. President Sovereign stated since establishing independence in 1978, Dominica and France have maintained friendly and fruitful relations resulting from the long-standing historical and cultural ties existing between the two countries. Dominica has also greatly benefited from assistance from the French government in various sectors including health, tourism, agriculture, and education. President Sovereign noted that he looks forward to the continued negotiation of a draft agreement targeting illegal trafficking in the Eastern Caribbean.
It is my expectation that during Your Excellency's term of office, that we will resume the process of negotiating and finalizing the draft agreements between both our governments, namely the draft agreement on mutual legal assistance in criminal matters and the draft agreement on extradition, which were initiated in 2017, aimed at fighting against the various forms of illicit trafficking in the Eastern Caribbean.
President Savary added that the commitment from the ambassador to deepen bilateral relations will assist Dominica on its path to sustainable development.
I am further pleased to note, Your Excellency's commitment to further strengthen relations and to deepen bilateral cooperation in the areas of security and defense, legal assistance, climate change, biodiversity preservation, culture, education, and health. These are areas of focus for us aimed at assisting in managing the many challenges and difficulties we face as we chart a path to sustainable development.
Meanwhile, newly appointed French ambassador to Dominica, His Excellency Francis Etienne, stated that the two governments must improve their cooperation in order to fight crime.
One big question is the rapid rise of criminality, namely violent deaths, gut smuggling, and drug trafficking in our region. It is causing great concern in Fort-de-France, Pointe-à-Pitre, Roseau, and Paris. Enhancing security is a common goal which requires all our forces. Together, we need to quickly upgrade our police cooperation, our border cooperation, and our judiciary cooperation. France has already proved that Dominica can count on its support and will do so in the future.
The adoption of a memorandum of understanding for the strengthening of judicial cooperation will be a priority for Ambassador Etienne.
An increased bilateral cooperation at operational level is needed. To this end, organizing as soon as the Joint Security Commission, which was last held in 2016, would be very welcoming indeed. We also need to strengthen our judicial cooperation. A draft MOU on mutual legal assistance is on the table, and a working session on this issue is needed as well. We think the time has come now for a formal adoption, and it will be one of my priorities over the next 3 years.
Over 10,000 cruise visitors arrived in Dominica last Friday, confirming reports that the season has been good so far. Daryl T takes a look at the 2022-2023 cruise season.
The COVID-19 pandemic wreaked havoc on the world travel and tourism industry, with many countries, including Dominica, closing its borders for extended periods of time. For months on end, cruise ships sat idle at ports, void of passengers with no intended destinations. Cruise ships returned to Dominica in July 2021, following the end of the 2019-2020 season. The 2019-2020 season saw 143 cruise calls with 189,334 passengers. The 2022-2023 cruise season began on November 1, 2022, and as at February 28, 2023, there has been 139 cruise calls to the island, bringing 216,489 passengers.
This season wasn't too bad. I cannot complain. If I complain, God will punish me.
This season so far was very good because I see plenty of people coming out from the ship and come to Dominica. And when they come there, they take out a picture with me. They play drum, they give me a tip, and they tell me, keep it up, don't give up.
The season was fantastic. This year was good. I can't complain.
What was good about this season?
Well, the sale was all right.
Are there a lot of tourists who are coming?
A lot of tourists, yes. And they say they love Dominica. They want to come and live Dominica. They say they want to have land, they want to have house Dominica.
Well, so far, I wouldn't lie. This season was good for me. Okay? It was good. I cannot say it wasn't good. It was good for me.
What has been good about the season is that you get to interact with the different culture of people. And then, as you know, business sometimes tend to be good. All businesses have their good time and their bad time. Sometimes you get a lot of customers, sometimes you don't.
It is often lost upon us as Dominicans that we live where others come to vacation.
We liked it from the first second on because we saw it from the boat and looked around and very green and lovely, nice water, nice housings, and so it's lovely.
A total of 196 calls are projected for the 2022-2023 cruise season, which translates to 314,000 cruise passengers. One stakeholder has some advice on how to improve the visitor experience.
Tell you the truth, so far so good. But my only problem is that we are the nature isle of the Caribbean. Now, the other island may have casinos, strip club, whatever. But we are the nature isle. So to promote our tourism right here at the Roseau Cruise Ship Berth, we need at least a different piece of our culture at every given day. You understand me? That is to promote our tourism and to uplift the nature isle. That is our culture, so we have to deliver it to the tourists.
The Cultural Division of Dominica, through the Ministry of Culture, Youth, Sports and Community Development, has officially kicked off the activities for the 2023 National Schools Art Festival with day one at the Old Mill Cultural Center. The event consisted of choral music, choral speech, and vocal solo acts from the secondary school level. Acting Chief Cultural Officer Mr. Urson Matthew says over 10 schools showed up at the center today.
Today we have day one of the National Schools Arts Festival. Of course, that features schools from across the island, both primary and secondary. We have 15 schools taking part this year. And we have disciplines such as vocal, solo, traditional music, traditional dance, creative dance, and many others. So it's good to see the schools stood out.
Participants will receive same-day results for the different segments.
Okay, so for the other days this week, we're going to have creative dance, traditional dance, instrumental assam, and many other disciplines. The results will be announced every day.
Here are a few highlights from the Arts Festival.
Also receiving silver this morning from the Dominica Community High School, Del Rio Lewis. Thank you very much. It is now my pleasure to announce to you those students who have met the requirements to receive gold medals from the Convent High School, the Arts of Bilal, receiving gold. These students would have received a total average of 85 to 100 points. From the Dominica Grammar School, Cheyenne Sylvester. Again, in no particular order. And last, but definitely not least, also receiving a gold medal this morning from the Pierre Charles Secondary School, Kayla George.
The festival curtains will close on Friday, March 10, with creative dances from the primary and secondary school levels. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. Be sure to follow GIS Dominica on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can also drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm. From all of us here on the GIS News Production team, I am Octavia Prosper. Thanks for watching and stay safe.